Oh, there we are.
Hey, everybody. We are live for Musty Wargamers Season 8, Episode 13, Episode 8, or Season 8, Episode 13.
There it is.
Episode
Boy,
8. Man, that's a
we're
flashback.
falling back.
Back in
Episode
time.
8.
It's supposed to be spring forward. Come on.
That's right.
Going back
How
to
is
the 80s.
Looks like
Welcome
we got,
to the Musty Wargamers show tonight. And
We got
a special guest. Nobody.
Nobody.
we got Mel in the house already. Striker.
Oh, yeah.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, hey Mel.
Howdy, Mel. You
Oh,
the
got Chris in the house, too. Welcome back, Games. Hey there.
Oh, hey Chris.
Howdy ho.
Well,
Yes, Dan's back.
Yeah.
The king is back.
yes.
I don't know about that. Wasn't that just last week?
2 weeks ago.
Was it 2 weeks? What the heck was last week? Gosh, I lost track of time. I was thinking the show wasn't
Hey,
until
Clark.
next week.
Hello, Clark.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like, it's
Hey,
hard to
Clark.
believe is that I was just sitting there, in my last 4 days of being sick, but
Oh no.
this last week kind of like slowed down to a crawl.
Hmm.
The old stomach was doing.
Oh.
Yeah, that's fun.
And, it's like sitting there in my chair under a blanket going,
Oh, I hate that.
yeah,
The chills. That's the worst.
yeah. It's like my
Yeah.
son got it. His girlfriend had it. Like,
It's nice of them to share.
yeah, sharing is caring, right?
Absolutely.
I told you guys, I guess this is part of my update typically, but I told you guys that I had a game of Drop Fleet tomorrow. Technically, I was supposed to play with someone else tomorrow, and the friend I'm playing with was going to watch because it's like his first game. But he kind of told me, like my kid's gotten sick, she's missing daycare today, and so I may or may not be able to make it on Friday. And I don't know if you guys remember, but I got so sick last fall, and it was actually playing with a game with someone that was really sick, and I was sick for like 5 or 6 weeks.
Too little gun shy.
I was out for it hit me so hard, like over a month, and I had said to him, I was like,
I don't know.
I told him that it's a different person. I said, why don't we just reschedule? Just because like if his daughters, I remember when my kids were in daycare and the worst stuff in the world goes
Oh,
through
you're
there.
not wrong.
The creepy crud.
Yeah, and I had said like I don't want any chance if he gets it that I'm getting it too. I've dealt with it already.
Not worth it.
Yeah,
Well,
it really isn't.
The fun thing is that my wife's a teacher, so she brings everything home too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
So if it hits the school district, it just comes right home.
yeah.
So my kids were fairly healthy as kids because they were exposed to everything.
Always exposed.
Oh yeah. All right. We have got Broken Dice.
He's coming aboard. Nice.
Broken Dice is teleporting in.
Slowly.
Yeah, he's coming. He's on his way. There's Broken Dice is teleported in.
Woo!
Yay!
There he is.
I was beginning to wonder if I was going to make it.
Stay
All right.
on target.
Glad you did.
Glad you were able to.
Yeah. Been a stressful month or two.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds like it.
So what's everybody been up to?
Well, we got a few people in the house already, and we kind of just got started. I mean, you didn't really miss anything. We haven't even mentioned the topics. Maybe I'll mention the topics for everybody that's in the room that hadn't seen it on the Facebook page. But we've got 2 topics tonight, and we're going to start with after our updates. We're going to talk about how we research, how much research and how we research for our armies that we do, or our games, like just kind of like the research side of things, like both for your armies and your games. Like how much do you tend to do? Does it change, depending on what you're doing, the kind of game, and that kind of thing. And then the next one is going to be about symmetrical versus asymmetrical wargaming. And so
I
we could talk
that topic.
we could talk a little bit about, our definition and how much we like one versus the other, or just go into tangents about how that affects our gaming and our plans and
Yeah.
That's kind of a big can of worms topic, I think, and so that'll be interesting. At least in my
It's
opinion.
kind of a continuation of last show.
Yeah. And so, but before we go there, Rusty, you're in the top right-hand quadrant tonight. So, did you want to do your update a bit?
Yeah, I did do an update video this week because I really couldn't really talk yesterday, or Tuesday. I was going to do it Tuesday, but I felt like crap. So, and in the process of that, I never did break out what I had finished this week. Actually, it was last week, I think. If you're a member of the Musty Wargamers show Facebook page, you can look over there. That's where I finished it and put it up. It was the Rapier gun platforms for
I missed that somehow.
my Death Guard.
I'll have to check that. Missed it.
So I did 8 of them. Yeah, it was 8 guns, and it was like 3 heavy bolters, 3 las cannons, and 3 mortars, like mole mortar type things. But they're thud guns. That's it.
Thud guns. Yeah. Okay.
Tree stump removers.
Tree stump removers.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I did some crews to go with them, so they're able to hit the table. So I got those finished, and then I was working on these things, which I do have here, which I might work on these tonight too. I have, it's the Undead Warriors for Lord of the Rings game.
Oh, cool.
We got 2 cavalry warriors here.
Right. And you actually put those up, right?
Yeah, they're up on the Facebook page too.
Yeah. Yeah, they're coming along nice.
Yeah, these are finished. Jesse was also, he has a bunch of them too. And he was like going to just go 2 colors or 1 color. What the heck is it? It's one of the contrasts. Doom? What is it? What the heck is this color?
Yeah, Rusty is fuzzy tonight. Mel's right.
Night Haunt. There we go.
Oh, cool.
It's Night Haunt Gloom. He did his whole army in just 1 color. And then I said, well, you can do more than that. You can put a dry brush on, put some multiple colors on it. So, they're good. And then I was like, yeah, I can do these. So I showed him how to.
Nice.
It's possible.
Sweet.
It's like, up your painting skills, buddy. If you're going to do it, put some love into them. And then I have these 2 guys. Also, I need to work on too. It's like a Bannerman and the King.
Yeah. You're a little blurry tonight, Rusty, so I'm not going to zoom in because you can't really. It's just zooming into more blurriness.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what it
blurry. On my end of the thing, I look fine. You guys look blurry.
Do we? When I look, you're the only one.
Yeah, same.
There can be only one. No, I don't know what it is. Sometimes that happens. I don't know if it's.
Got Musty Wargamers.
Hey, Curtis. Got Curtis in the house too.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, Curtis.
So, Rusty.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I do. It's like I started to, and I am really blurry. Holy crap.
So you're gaming. You've been gaming at the shop more than you. If I've heard you correctly, you've been doing a bit more gaming at the shop than in recent years lately.
Yeah.
So that's Lord of the Rings, or is that what that is?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, last year or 2 years ago, we started doing a little like bolt action stuff, and then lately it's been doing Lord of the Rings stuff.
Cool.
What I might do is after I do my update, I'll pop out and go back in.
Yeah, that's what I would suggest.
Okay.
So
sometimes that'll
take care of that.
Care of that.
Tonight I am working on little guys.
Oh yeah, I finally got you sucked in, huh?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the you're doing the Civil War.
I got my first batch of 15 mil ACW going, and there's 45 guys on the table here. I've been working on 45 stands. 3 guys per stand.
3 guys per stand. Are you doing Union there then, or?
Yeah. Since you're doing Confederates, I'm doing Union.
Yeah, there you
go. And I have more guys. I need to get some bases put together so I can mount these guys. But I was just looking through the book, the Fire and Fury regimental rules.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Which Mel has a set. We played a game of it already last fall, I think it was.
I thought you were.
These 45 stands is roughly about 1/3, about half to 1/3 the size of a typical game. So I need more stands.
Yeah, it seems like you need to get more towards that 80 to 95 ish for at least the scenarios in the rule book.
Yeah, the smallest ones. And if you look at some of the big games,
oh yeah, that's 120,
200 to 300 stands.
Yeah,
that's gonna be a while.
that'd be a hot minute for this kid, but you just plug away, right?
Yeah, that's what you gotta do. Tonight's drink is Grant's Scotch, blended Scotch.
Nice.
Cool.
It's a 3-year-old, a 3 to 5-year-old blended Scotch. It's not a little bit better than what do you call Johnny Walker Red.
Okay.
Johnny Walker Red is kind of like the bottom of the barrel kind of Scotch, but
for blended or just Scotch in general?
Just Scotch in general. Beyond. So there, that's my update.
All right.
Ooh.
So you're gonna jump in and out just for your
Yep,
camera,
I'm gonna
or
jump in and
you're
out.
gonna reload your computer or something?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Adios.
So Dan, what
Yeah.
about you? What have you been up to? You're now in the top right hand corner.
Yeah, I got promoted.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Same thing I've been working on, the 15 mil Old Glory ACW Confederates. And I
Good
don't
deal.
know if you'll be able to see these or
Oh yeah,
this
yeah.
little-
Hang on.
see if the picture's
right.
good enough to be able to see them. Working on some cavalry, mounted cavalry.
Nice.
And yeah, they're coming along good. I've got the starter set comes with what is it? 16, so eight stands. I've got 4 stands done. I am doing the highlights on another 2 stands, and I've just got 4 left to do then, and the mounted are done, and then I'll paint 12 dismounted cavalry infantry and 2 horse holder stands, and then basically it's just a couple like a brigade leader and overall general for the armies, and basically I'd have a playable force. Then I'll jump back onto the infantry. I'd like to get I've got 8 regiments done. I'd like to get another 4 so I could play a little bit larger game before I kind of move off the project. I've been getting the itch to do some fantasy, my fantasy knights, Bretonians.
Nice.
Yeah, so that'll probably be my next project, but I am staying focused on this while I'm moving along nicely, and I got my paint scheme down, and I'm still enjoying working on them. I didn't get as much done last week or 2 weeks ago when I was on the show, I guess, or not on the show, was my daughter was in town, so we spent time with her, so I didn't have evenings to paint, so I'm a little behind on that. But
you have a lot more Bretonians to do, or are you going to be doing your Lizardmen soon?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, or I've got undead also. I those are the 3 armies I have that I pretty well could make full massive armies of each, but I'm not looking to start any other ones besides those. But I'll probably just do Bretonians. Back to them. Really interested in getting back. I've got a bunch of 5th edition because I have every miniature that was made for 5th edition.
Nice.
so I can keep working on those. I mean, I can even there's 23 or 23, I think, poses of mounted questing knights, and I have them all. And I've only painted 10 to make a unit, but so I mean, I can continue on to that craziness too.
Well, that'll be kind of continuing on, and I mean, I know you do them individually.
Yeah,
so
I do.
Be coming up with new schemes.
Yep, new heraldry. And I did in the last few years. I bought a couple of books that are just actual real heraldry books.
That might even fit very well into our conversation tonight.
Yeah, you're right. Yes, exactly. And
that's coming up.
Yeah, and then I've through the years too, I've added after I got done getting all the 5th edition, I grabbed a couple 6th edition. Like the 5th edition doesn't have the trebuchet or the Grail Reliquary. So
to do your test paints, just to do your test models. You grab those 6th edition ones just so you could do your test models?
Just because it doesn't matter.
You know, kind of toss them into a drawer.
Yeah, whatever. Those I picked. Those are a few of the models that I thought were really cool. And then, of course, if you play later editions, that they're usable. Not obviously not 5th edition. Yeah. And then I also picked up some, because I do love metal minis. Picked up some different manufacturers that do basically kind of Bretonnian proxies, basically, that like
nice.
Excuse me. Let's see, Sally Forth Games does proxy Bretonnians, and actually Black Tree Design has got their 100 Years War actually work really well and scale really well with 5th edition. And then I do have some of Black Tree Design's Men of Averain. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but it's their basically it's back when they were Harlequin miniatures. They're Harlequins. They did them in the 90s, and they are very in the flavor of. And they did orcs and goblins and ratmen, and I mean they basically did all the armies in the same flavor as that period of Warhammer Fantasy. And so I picked those up when I could find them on really decent deals through the years, and so I could make whole. Oh, and then one other I have is Game Zone. Game Zone does some great metal Bretonnian looking knights, and so I've got those that I'd like to do too. I've got enough to make a unit of each of those different manufacturers that I'll mix in.
You have the what's her face, the for your Bretonnians, the
Fey Enchantress,
it's on the unicorn.
Yep, I have her, and I actually even have one that I got maybe 5 years ago. There was a guy, I think it was Italy, that designed his own to copy. If you remember, I don't know, can I reach? It probably doesn't matter, but in the 5th edition book, there's a picture, a black and white picture, and I can't remember who the artist is, but it's got her on the unicorn. It's like a full page art piece, and the unicorn's like jumping over this like fallen tree, and this guy from Italy sculpted, I assume, I'm not exactly sure, I found it on Facebook on one of the Bretonnian Facebook pages. He had shown it, and he had it painted in resin, and I reached out to him and he sold me one. I was a little nervous. I mean, I think I gave him like, I don't know, $35 or something for it. And I thought, well, I don't know if he'll send it or if it'll make its way here, but it was worth a shot. It's $35. Who cares? And yeah, and it did. It came like 3 weeks later, and it gosh, I'm gonna grab that if I can reach it. Hang on one sec.
Yeah.
Looks like we got GM Cody in the house as well. Hey, thanks GM Cody for stopping by. We'll get to the comments shortly.
It is so cool. It's an exact.
Yeah, it's like I just picked up the Enchantress on Unicorn off eBay.
Okay, it's not a full page one. That was my bad. It's this quarter page.
I'll zoom in here. Let me see here. Okay.
It's that picture there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And It is
Awesome.
it is identical and very well done. All the detail and the sculpting and it's got the unicorn jumping over that fallen tree and the whole thing. And so anyways, I've even got that I'm looking forward to. I've got literally, and I have the Games Day miniature. I can't even pronounce it. It's a foot knight, and which I also had to get from Europe. It was in a Games Day in Europe back in the late 90s. It was late 90s, I believe. Can't remember.
Mhm.
And anyway, so yeah, I've got lots, and I'm kind of excited about doing 28 millimeter again and doing some bright colors and the whole medieval imaginary world Warhammer situation's kind of grabbing me. And I love the 5th edition with the more Arthurian idealized, knights, not the grim. I didn't ever like the 6th edition Bretonnian where they're all grim dark. And
I heard that before.
Yeah, I know. I remember being devastated because I subscribed to White Dwarf back then, and I was all excited, and I remember reading the article, just being like, "No, I hate it." But anyway, and then last minute, Mark reached out, and we're going to get together on Sunday for a bolt action game. It'll be my second one of 3rd edition, so that's
good.
Yeah, he's been working on his Nom 68 stuff, and he just said he wasn't ready yet. So how about coming over my place and playing bolt action? I said, sure. I have the tables still set up, and we'll just flip sides and give it another try. That'll be our second game, and then I can get a little better idea what I think of 3rd edition.
Right. That's great.
So that's me.
Cool.
Quick question.
Yeah.
How many guys do you have in each of your regiments?
I have 8 stands, counting the command stand, because that's how the starter army was set up.
Okay, so you basically have what you said.
64? 7 times 8. I've got 56 infantry stands.
Okay,
and then 8 command stands. But I've got more. Once I don't know if you were on. Once I've got about 4 cavalry to finish, mounted cavalry to paint, 12 dismounted, 2 horse holder stands, and then I'll return to infantry just to bulk out, to just add more stands, because that's, like you said, we need more. We've got enough to start. I think there's one scenario in there that only on the Confederate side only takes like 30 some stands of infantry. I mean, I have enough to play one of the book scenarios. So
hey Tim, do you mind before you and I do our updates, we just do a quick look at the chat? Because we got about 10 people in the room.
Right ahead.
All right, we'll do that real quick.
ahead.
Just so keep it going, keep things moving along. So after we go through the highs and the howdies, we've got, well, actually, you got some good news here tonight. Looks like Clark says baby number 4 was born on Tuesday. Everyone is home and healthy.
oh, congrats.
Cool.
Congratulations, sir. That's wonderful.
That's big news. You bet. Awesome.
Absolutely.
Number 4.
4.
Somebody's been busy.
Like, you know what causes that, right?
Looks like Percy. I don't think I saw him come in, so thanks for joining in live tonight, Percy. And we've got Mel is drinking Pepsi Zero Sugar Wild Cherry for his musty drink tonight. And let's see.
Nothing wrong with that.
And let's see. Curtis has been able to make it tonight because usually it's too late for him. Yeah, we are a little late on the East Coast for sure.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Let's see here. Dan's Bretts are amazing, very inspiring.
Thank you.
As well as his bolt action models. Actually, he's just inspiring overall.
Oh, you gonna give him a big head?
No. Now I've
Mel
got to
says-
get my hip waders on. It's getting deep.
Mel says air conditioning on Sunday, 80 plus degrees. So yeah, that actually. Well,
And then it was 24 Tuesday morning.
We just got rid
Yeah.
of our snow last week. We're just happy that it's like above 0 at the moment and kind of nice out in Calgary. Tonight's musty drink is water for Clark. Well, that was quick. So after the hellos, that was most of it. So, Tim, what is going on with
Yes.
yourself?
Well, I told you what's been going on with me off
Yeah.
the show. So I haven't got a whole lot of painting done. I did finish that miniature from Eldritch Miniatures, the sort of Viking-esque fantasy marauder type leader I did.
Yeah.
I've been working on the Waterloo set from Warlord Games. I didn't know it came with some buildings in the bottom of them. So each one comes with a building. So I got those. Plus I ordered. Wow. Let's see. Look down in here. See, I've got the river thing to work on.
Oh, let's see here. Let me pull that up.
Which
Blow
is
him up
from-
a little
this is
bit.
all from.
Oh, there you
This is
go.
all
Yeah.
from Sarissa
Cool.
Precision. Okay.
Okay.
And-
Cool.
Well, we'll talk about this in a minute. I thought about doing a video, but like I said, I've been really busy with grown-up stuff, and video is not anytime coming soon. So probably another week before I get to anything. And then I've got the hedges, got the little trees and stuff. And when
cool.
I first looked at them, on the website, I thought they'd be like small little plastic 3D things, that you just put a little flock on. No, they're from Sarissa Precision, and they're more like 2D that you got to fill out.
Okay.
A little more work.
So
yeah.
they kind of look like, let's see, like that. They're just
I don't know.
Black
My screen's really
section.
blurry. Am I the only
Yeah,
one
it's
that's
gone
really blurry?
blurry.
Yeah, you've gone blurry, so you can't really see any of the detail on your MDF pieces.
oh really?
Yeah,
You must be
I
having
don't
a
know
problem
why.
because
Yeah,
I see it as clear. So
yeah.
bring it back out and see if is it blurry still? You guys are
Kinda.
clear to me.
Yeah, you've gone blurry.
Huh.
Yeah, you're blurry.
Rusty gave it to you.
It's contagious.
contagious.
Yeah. Shoot.
Yeah, Chris says in the comments it's blurry from the viewer perspective. So in any case, you can talk about it though. You just can't show the
Yeah.
detail on it.
Yeah, okay. And the other thing that really I got the bridge because I actually I just said I wanted to look at the epic scale terrain. And they had this bridge in there from Sarissa Precision. And I thought, oh, cool. It'll be because I've got big bridges. And I thought, man, get one about the right scale. That'd be pretty cool. Well, when it came, it's like 28 millimeter. It's huge. It's bigger. It's bigger than the building. And
Right.
it's like, why would they put that under the epic scale stuff?
That is strange.
Because
Did they?
they had it
Well,
in there with all the epic scale buildings and things. So I don't know. I don't know why they did that.
You probably
It
could.
was
You probably could write
it's
them
a little
about it.
bit misleading.
Yeah.
Huh?
You could probably write them about that if it's on the website wrong. They might be able to work with you and
And then
on
I've got. Oh, one of them was a road, and here's the river. It's the same stuff. You
Yeah,
just do
yeah.
one as a river and one as a
Oh,
road.
right.
Again,
That's cool.
it's almost like 28 millimeter scale. It's not.
okay.
It does almost like there's the bridge is wider than a stand of troops.
Okay.
Okay.
And the bridge is like definitely for 28 millimeter stuff. It's not for epic scale.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got this building here. I got to put.
Oh, okay.
together.
It's hard to.
Yeah.
What kind of?
But
What
I
building
do
is
like.
that?
See, I like the Plasinoid, whatever it is. It's kind of like a church, and I like Sarissa Precision buildings and stuff. They go
Yeah.
together really easy. I love them. But
They're nice.
Just the
Yeah,
scale.
I don't know. Like this river thing, it's gonna look like the Mississippi compared to these guys. You know what I mean? It's,
Well, you should just write them and see whether they'll do something for you with that.
Well,
I
they're
mean,
just
it's
trying
not
to
like I
cross the
went to
Rhine.
well,
The
it's
Rhine
not
or
like
the Danube.
yeah.
Well, I know there's some scenery pieces they
I'll
sell
have
for
to put
bolt.
islands in the middle of it. Do
Yeah.
what?
There's some scenery pieces they sell for bolt action that are actually more like really 70-second scale. 1/72. They're
Oh,
not. They're
really?
too small for bolt. Like when you put a guy next to the door, it's like I don't think so. I mean, I know European buildings are small and definitely back then were smaller than what we're used to, but it's if you do a little research, you find out that there were artillery kits that were actually 1/72 scale, and they're using it as 1/56.
Ah, okay. I did get started another game last week of Armada, which is
nice.
I like an addiction.
Cool.
It's kind of like a small addiction for me right now. It's one of those things I never did, and now that I've done it a few times, I really enjoy
You're
it.
loving it.
But we were
Oh,
playing,
good.
we got into like the second round, and all the power went out.
Oh,
In his base, all the power went out for like about 4 or 5 blocks,
oh wow.
and somebody must have ran into a transformer or something. And
Well, tonight, from the house right next door south of me is all out of power tonight. When I came down here just before the show started, the power company was right outside my driveway.
Well, that's a good response.
Well, you're kind of that sums it up for you there, Tim.
yeah, pretty much. I do have a couple of the buildings put together, but they're out in the other room on the big table, and they're not painted up yet. I'm still just kind of trying to figure out how I want to go about doing those. But yeah, I was just really disappointed in the bridge. The river, rivers are of varying size anyway, so
It's
that's
probably
not going to
technically
make that
more
big.
accurate. It's probably technically more accurate now. Technically.
Probably. Yeah.
Technically.
But the thing was, I was hoping that they would be like scaled down a little bit, but they're not.
Yeah.
So, but then again, see, I play a lot of 28 millimeter too, so that's not going to hurt.
Right.
And
Yeah, that's true. Good point.
like I've got like 2 of the old armor cast, Rusty.
Yeah.
Weren't they the ones that had the armor cast? Yeah, I've got 2 of their rivers, and I got those all painted up already. So I got like 96 inches of river. Not to brag about how long my river is.
Yeah, everybody's got a
96
big
inches.
river. I know what you mean.
Everybody's got a. Now I just add this stuff on there. What I could do is change both of those sets, since they're all the same. It's just the way you do them.
Yeah.
Make them both. I can make them both roads.
Yeah.
Instead
Tim,
of
is that 96 inches straight, or is there a curve to it?
oh, there's curves and
Yeah.
It's I call it the Peronis.
Uh-huh.
The river's got a lot of Peroni in it.
Uh-huh.
You got a name for it. That's good.
Well, you've never seen the commercials? Oh my God.
No.
Oh my God. You know what Peroni's disease is, right?
I don't.
You
Proud
don't?
to say. No.
Have you heard of the term a bent nail?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's Peroni's disease. So the
Okay.
river I have has a lot of Peronis in it.
Okay. Well, I hope there's treatments for that.
Well, I want my river to have a little curve in it.
That's a little. There you go. Everybody's different.
Oh God,
Yeah.
we're awful. We're coming off the rails again.
That's
We're
what she
This
said.
discussion did it in one other time.
Well, it's good that it's not a total loss when it comes to the river. At least you know, at least you're not viewing it that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh no. I will find a use for it. Trust me.
Yeah.
I know that sometime in the future I need to get a hold of Mel whenever he decides to get he's got a bandsaw. He has that thing operational. It's like the last time we got together, we cut a whole bunch of roads and rivers out for me.
Nice.
And
At an MDF or
on board, yeah.
nice. Well, gaming wise, my gaming has been really strange because I actually had a huge number of games scheduled, but I actually am just joining kind of like a club for Old World locally, and I thought that I actually had a game, like the night, because they do it twice a month, was on Tuesday, but it's actually next Monday. I was like totally wrong, not even with the right day of the week.
Oh,
So
wow.
I didn't. So I ended up not having that game. I did have a DBA game on Monday, which I've been doing that regularly, and I've been enjoying that. And I had a game. I'm having a game of Drop Fleet Commander tomorrow, and I kind of talked a bit about that earlier, about how it's actually was supposed to be with one player, but it's actually be a different player that I'm going to playing the game with. Next week, I'm going to be playing for the first time ever Advanced Dungeons and Dragons Battle Systems.
Oh yeah.
15 mil. I'm going to be doing the thing that you're never ever
so.
supposed to do, but they'll likely be half primed and half partially painted. While we've been doing the show tonight, I've been putting this Vallejo gray sand, the stuff, on these guys, which are bullywugs. They might call them frog people at Silver Light, but they're basically bullywugs. For if Curtis is in the house, he should know what that is.
Oh yeah, Curtis will give us all the details.
He knows the AD&D stuff.
Yeah.
And so bullywugs, I'm going to have 35 of these guys. I have a bunch of, for the first game, I think we're just going to pull the bullywugs out, but I have a lizardmen contingent too for AD&D, as well as many other things.
Weird.
Right now, I'm working on, I have all baddies at the moment. I'm working on Hecatron, he was, I think, probably for Dungeons and Dragons originally, but he's basically an old Ralpartha fire giant. And so I'm actually putting some basing material on him. He works out great for 15 mil. Like with 28 mil, it's really hard to justify him, or even like 25 mil, the old 28. But now, like, if you look at him next to a bullywug,
that works.
It's perfect.
Yeah,
he's perfect. And so, so I'm working on that. And so I'm looking forward to playing that game next week. And I'm going to have to reread the rules. It's been a long time since I've looked at the rules to play it. It's been really like 7 years in the making, 6-7 years in the making, talking about it. And so I'm really glad, like, I kind of have an opponent that wants to play, and I've got basically my miniatures, in process now.
That's awesome.
And so you saw what I've been doing as far as that stuff there. I'm actually, now that once I'm finished with some of the basing here during our discussion tonight, I'm just going to be working on the base for this guy that I've been working on over time while I've been doing many different projects. This is the Jabber Scythe for Warhammer.
That is cool.
It's kind of a cool model. I'm going to paint this Goblin Green, the base, tonight, just to kind of keep working away at him, as I'm kind of working on him in between other projects. And that's been fun to do. And so as far as my musty drink, let's see. I have got Glenlivet 12. Yeah.
Mm.
And so that's what I'm having a little splash of. I'm
glad I didn't grab my Glenlivet.
You were about to?
Yeah.
Usually, while I'm waiting for you guys to do your updates, I'm usually already into a beer, but I haven't, just getting started now, so a little bit behind.
We have confidence you can catch up.
Just a couple of battle techs in there.
Yep, and you'll be good to go.
Exactly. So, why don't we get into it then for our first topic? So, first topic, how much do we research, the history or the source materials for our historical or our fictional games? How much do we do for our armies? How much do we do for the game setup and its, the game itself? And so, who would like to take the first crack at that?
Unleash the Kraken.
Unleash the Kraken.
Well, I'd say I've been really doing a lot of research into ACW this recently to set up getting this army put together.
Mm-hmm.
And most of it was been so long since I painted ACW miniatures. I had to think really hard, and I was going through and doing my research and trying to figure out what color, what got painted, what,
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
on the models. And right now I'm doing tons of brass. But yeah, it's one of those things where, let's say, if you're going to play, let's say, Napoleonics of what era of the Napoleonic Wars, what armies you plan on playing is like, oh God, it's like a rabbit hole of, okay, the worst thing you could ever do is like when you could play like Napoleonics, is that there's so many different types of armies and different types of units that have different types of uniforms. Oh man. But so what battle do you plan on playing?
Mm-hmm.
Because the worst thing about Napoleonics, certain units only fought in one battle, and that was it. And so you got to think about, okay, what army, what size units did they have? How many units of this do I need? Do I want to just paint them generic and use them for different battles, or how many of each type of infantry, cavalry, artillery?
How about the battlefield terrain in the game itself? Like, do you ever research
that's
the battle itself?
Luckily, most of the let me clean off my brush here real quick. Is that, let's say here we got Regimental Fire and Fury right here. Got the Roebuck Candy right here. The nice thing about historicals is that you got a little map right here, and it shows you the battlefield and how to set it up.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the worst thing about that is if you're playing this, you look at it, oh my gosh, I need some river, I need a creek, I need hills, I need woods, I need buildings.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you don't have any of those things, now you have to research where I'm going to get those things, how much effort I'm going to put into making this battlefield, how many stands of everything you're going to need.
Right.
So it's like it becomes a massive layout of thinking way in advance, where if you're going to play an accurate battlefield, you're going to have to go do a lot of planning with this, which I understand why a lot of guys just put together a kind of a mock battlefield, so they don't have to go too deep into it.
A little generic. So do you like the research part, or you like it to be accurate, or you just didn't, that, do you enjoy the process of it, or you're mostly just trying to get it to be, you represent what you're trying to represent?
I like the process because you're learning a lot of things too. It's like you start reading, especially if you want to just play a certain battle.
Yeah.
And then you break out the books. You know, it's like, okay, maybe I'll order a book. Nowadays, you just order something off Amazon so you can read about that battle, the Pacific battle,
Right.
and what happened and what the generals did and what was the thinking, what the maneuvers were happening,
Mm-hmm.
to get yourself into the flavor of what's going on with it. And if you really want to get into the depth of it, it's like one of my things I like doing is going to Civil War battlefields
Yeah, I'd love to do that someday.
and actually put feet on the ground. And it's like walking around, and you read the book about it. You maybe nowadays you can watch videos on it, and you just walk around the battlefield and just trying to get a feel of what was happening at that day, which is really hard. It's like if you look at like Napoleonics, it's a little hard to do a Napoleonic battle. It's not an easy drive.
You could raise your miniature up too and look at the field from a distance. Just kind of
you
get yourself like a real immersion, right? Like with
Yeah. Take my
miniature
troops out there.
view, like
top left pocket.
Oh lordy.
yeah, but it's something that I don't necessarily feel that when it comes to like playing BattleTech or they do have scenario books for BattleTech where you can actually play their historical battles that they had. You know,
Yeah, the lore.
lore, but I don't feel that's overly a necessity. Going that route. When it's like when you're playing fantasy or sci-fi, it's like you just make up a battlefield and go with it and play. Unlike historicals, if you're going to play a historical battle, you feel like you need to try to get as close as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And
then everything goes downhill from there.
And it's funny because what I was going to talk about, I mean, I was going to give examples where I would do both the research, because you're doing Lord of the Rings right now, and there's some folks that are just so crazy about the detail around Lord of the Rings. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And excited about it, right? And the idea that you could find a reference and like you're doing something related to that, would be fun for a lot of people, I think. But of course,
that's what
the
I want.
detail.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Dan.
I was just going to say that's what I was wondering too, because obviously, well, apparently for Rusty, like the historical, that's where he enjoys the research. But you could also, I've heard some people argue, like you said, Palmer, with Lord of the Rings in particular, because that is a very specific lore, or even the old world, or you can get in the weeds there if it's fun. Obviously if it's fun for you, but because it's essentially a real history also in an imaginary world, right?
Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah. I always think that, of course, like real history has more to grab from, than anything fictional. But at the same time, there are some people that will say that, the measure of a fictional world building, genre is by how detailed they make it. And it just depends on your opinion.
Absolutely.
Who would like to go next?
I'll go.
Okay.
I like, of course, one of the things I like about, obviously historical wargaming is the history part. So I like reading historical accounts and things, even if I didn't do miniature gaming. That being said, though, you can get way in the weeds, though, and because I really found that to be true. Like, well, I started kind of when I got back in the hobby with bolt action in World War II, and that's not terribly difficult to get accurate, orders of battle and photographs and uniforms that aren't 180 years old, that kind of have the right coloring and some you can kind of come up with definitive, and also knowing that you know, like even when they talk about German field gray, that was lots of different grays. So I mean, but there's even paint companies that have come out, you know, Army Painter, Vallejo, Cote d'Arms have all come out with paint sets that are specific for different World War II factions. So you can just go down that road. It's the research has kind of been done as far as paint colors, and then Battlefield's the same way. You know, there's images of it, and a lot of cases the same buildings and things are still there today. So you can get a good sense of that if you want to create a real accurate representation visually. But I found when I got into the AWI, that was challenging because I was doing the Continentals in particular, and and that's where I really kind of found out that you just kind of avoid certain Facebook groups.
Yes.
Because I got reamed out a few times about some pictures that I posted, but yeah, but also at the same time, because I did buy some books and I spent hours, you know, reading through them, trying to figure out flags for regiments. And I found the books that are supposedly like, you know, this is, you know, somebody that's a definitive expert on that area. Oh, there you go. Yep. And they, you know, it's just, it's a lot of vagueness and gray area. And then you start painting sort of representations, you know, were they really just completely in rags and mismatched, or were sometimes certain regiments actually fairly well outfitted, or some of the state militias were particularly well outfitted. You know, that's argued back and forth. And so at some point on that project, I just had to be like, yep, here we go. This is what I want it to look like. This makes me happy. It's a good representation. I'm not going to put it in a museum and tell people that this is, you know, this is what it was. So that, you know, I found that a little frustrating just because I don't know if I was that naive, but I thought, oh, I'll just do the research and then I'll know, you know, and you don't. They're still trying to figure it out. It's still being argued among all kinds of experts. And Civil War, not as much as that. Again, though, I think I found on the Civil War I did less research just because I actually did most of my research. This is almost shameful, but just YouTube and Facebook and rule book images. It's like I like how that dude or ma'am painted those Confederate forces, and that's what I want mine to look like. You know, some of them made them really, you know, they're basically all in gray uniforms, and some of them have them in everything, and some of, you know, just, and then they argue, that they weren't in rags, and they weren't that ragtag even at the end of the war, except for certain regiments, and so that's a whole can of worms. But I just look through and like, I like the way that guy painted, or that picture in the Warlord Games supplement that they have for black powder. That's gorgeous. I'm going with that. There's Leon T66 is on Facebook or on YouTube, and he's painted a bunch of the epic Civil War Confederates, and I really liked the look that he got. So I just kind of emulated that, and because it just got to be frustrating. And then I thought, well, what difference does it make? I mean, it's one thing if, you know, it's supposed to be a blue uniform and you made it purple, which, you know, is up to you too. Who cares? But I mean, as far as what exactly color was butternut, and it wasn't one color anyway. And you know, at some point you just got to grab the paintbrush and get,
Throw something,
you know,
on.
You get analysis paralysis is what I was finding. But I do enjoy doing the research, though. That is fun to you know. I'm always liking to learn about history, and it's particularly fun when it's a thing that you kind of get immersed in. Then, you know, then the battles, and then what are you going to paint? And are you, like Rusty said, are you painting for a specific battle, or are you making them kind of generic? Because Fire and Fury, it stands, and they're based on, when you use one of the scenarios in the book, they have it by, you know, each stand represents what, 40 guys or 30, something like that.
Yeah.
And
Like,
and
I think
so
it's 40.
Yeah, so you don't. When I'm calling my regiments, I'm painting up regiments. I'm actually painting up stands, and I mean, I could combine two of my. I can have a 12 stand regiment or a 6 stand regiment. So if you're going to be mixing and matching like that, I got to keep them kind of generic so that they all look nice together. So I don't have specific regiments they have red hats or something. You know, you could if you're doing Zouaves or the Texas Brigade or Iron Brigade for the Union and things like that. But otherwise, I'm just keeping it generic. But so yeah.
Looks like Josh has joined the
Iron
chat.
Brigade.
Oh, there he is, Swords and Sake. I've been watching some of his videos the last couple of nights. Baron's War.
Baron's War, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's cool.
Wish I could paint like Josh does. Woo, boy. That'd be fun.
You do paint like him.
No, I do not. Mine looks like a 4-year-old next to his. But I enjoy looking at what he does.
I don't think there's anybody out there that has better Bretonians than yours that I've seen.
Oh, really? Well, I appreciate that. I guess you always see the flaws of yours, and I see somebody else's picture on Facebook. I'm like, dang, now that is awesome. Well, thanks, Rusty. Appreciate that.
Yep.
So Josh is ordering his musty lunch, which that must be liquid lunch, I'm guessing, if that's what he means.
That's how you stay thin. Well, he's got to save money he wants to get another Baron's War order in, so you got to cut where you can.
Yeah. Well, Tim, what are your thoughts on the subject, sir?
Well,
Mighty deep subject.
Yep.
Well, Rusty and I have many of the same thought patterns as far as that goes. As far as research and understanding the scope and the actual limitations of what was involved in that whatever particular time period you're doing. Now, like I've said this many times, I normally all my research is like right now with the Napoleonics is even though I've got this Waterloo set, we're going to play a lot of different games with these miniatures. It's just not going to be Waterloo every time we turn around.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I couldn't do that. I'd rather run my head into a brick wall than do that over and over and over.
Yeah.
But like within all your research, if you look at it with a critical eye, you'll be able to jot down exactly the pivot points of each campaign or each battle where decisions were made correctly or incorrectly, where there was luck involved, just plain blind luck sometimes. And that's where the essence of the game comes from are those things. I don't mind.
He
He froze up solid.
Either deep in thought or froze up.
Deep in thought.
Now wait a minute now.
Now
See if we'll
wait
come
a
back.
minute.
Come back to the light, Tim.
Is that a poltergeist? A general reference?
General.
Don't go
reference.
to the light.
Yeah, that's poltergeist.
Bug's life.
Yeah.
I say it's been a long time since I've seen Poltergeist.
Yeah.
I remember watching a theater, but
He's out.
all
He'll
right,
probably jump back in.
He'll jump
sneak back in on us. But yeah.
All right, why don't we
Let's go to the comments. We got any new
Yeah,
comments?
that's what I'm going to do. I don't want to start and then stop. And so what we got here? They sent on the wrong bridge, is my guess. And that's Chris referring to Tim's comment. Wow, Tim is really blurry. Everyone else is crystal clear. Using 10 millimeter scenery with my 15 millimeter now. Okay.
Yeah, I know people do that, and it's not a bad idea.
Pepperoni disease. I'm not sure. I don't think that was referring to. Not sure where that was.
Peyronie's disease, pepperoni.
Pepperonis.
Oh,
Pepperonis. There we
back
go.
on that, that side trip we took.
Mel's
Just-
correcting Rusty. He says, I wish I had a bandsaw. I have a scroll saw.
Yeah, that's what I was. It's like the scroll saw was actually pretty nice. He whipped out all kinds of stuff really quick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Way too much research, says Chris.
Well,
Tim's
gotta
camera
start
looks
someplace.
less blurry. Mel says, I researched World War II pretty in depth. The uniforms and colors varied so greatly, especially with the German Waffen SS and the Grenadier units.
Yeah.
It says, Rusty, remember back in the day at Alliance Miniatures, those guys with John were fanatical on the research.
oh yeah, those guys would. That's my first experience with Grognards, man. Those guys were like, holy crap.
Wrong color cuffs. You went with red on the collar? Quote unquote.
Yeah, it's a tough crowd.
Painted them all wrong. Take them back. We don't want to play with you
I
anymore.
won't play with your toys.
Josh says, hi, I'm ordering my musty lunch now for the show today. And he says, I love your painting, Dan, and we'd love to see more Bretonnian updates on the channel, my friend.
Oh, I know. I need to do that.
And
That's what I get people coming to my channel asking when you're going to do some Bretonnian updates.
Oh gosh, I know. I know. My life has been. I've got the same thing going on. Tim's got going on the last year and a half, and it's it's been challenging.
Well, what I might do is I might just start going and talking just while because we have another topic to do too.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
you know, it's funny. I thought about this topic a little bit, and there are times, you know, like the answer isn't one way for me. Like there are some games where I just don't do the research that much, even though I could. Like I might do just surface level, which is like uniform, or if it's fictional, like paint scheme based on an army codex. But like, let's say World War II bolt action. I tried to paint my Americans correct, but that's kind of where it stopped. I mostly played the game just as the game goes. Like I didn't really try to do like simulating battles for World War II. And then like French Indian War, I would say I researched the uniforms a lot more and I got into the depth a lot more, but I still hadn't, you know, gotten to the point where I tend to reenact battles, like actual historical battles. But that's not to say I wouldn't at one point.
Yeah.
But then, you know, we're talking about doing that AD&D battle systems, and my friends actually ordered the Greyhawk poster for the World of Greyhawk for Dungeons and Dragons, and which I remember having that myself. And we were talking. I even when wanting to plan to play AD&D battle systems 7 years ago, I wanted to go back and get the Forgotten Realms campaign books and the Greyhawk books.
Yeah.
And you see, to me, like that research that you put in sometimes can add a coolness factor. Like sometimes when it's whether it be liking the history part and just like wanting to like, you know, simulate a kind of actual battle in history, or whether you want to put your characters into the world because it's that much more satisfying when you're pulling out the campaign books and you're reading the detail. Like you don't have to do that. Like you can have just as good of a game without doing that. But sometimes there's like a coolness factor, like where you just got to get caught up in like nerding out a bit. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Like, you know, and I think that actually is something that you know, I'm looking forward to. And so sometimes sometimes when you're doing, like you guys said, sometimes when it comes to the history with the uniforms, I feel compelled both personally and to not have the shame of others to do a certain amount of research to make sure I'm doing things correct. And so for my British and my French, I've chosen actual regiments, and I ordered the actual flags and tried to paint according to the actual, you know, uniforms the way they were for that particular command group.
Right.
But then, like, you know, yeah, like I said, I think it really just depends on the game. Even like Marvel, sometimes I have fun going back and grabbing like an old uniform for a superhero, like from the comics, and just painting it as the old uniform, you know?
Oh yeah.
And then for my Spider-Man board that I did for the cartoon, like the 1968 Spider-Man cartoon, where I painted the buildings, pastels, and like different kind of three tone color schemes, and just try to emulate that. To me, that was a bit of research in its own way, right? Like to try to just do the game. Like you don't have to play the game that way. Like I didn't have to do any of that. And actually, it wasn't even for Crisis Protocol. It was for the current game. It was for the Night Models game that I did all this for originally. And so I would say I have fun with the research, but I don't know if it's in the way that like you would think at first glance with the topic, because it's not so much pulling out like a huge stack of history books and, you know, like trying to just be perfect in every single way and whatever. It's like more for fun, I would say. And yeah, and I would imagine that the real, like we refer to them as grognards, but I would imagine that many of the grognards that are really into the history, it's fun for them too. Like, you know, like knowing those details and reading up on them, and it's a type of fun.
Yeah, no, it is.
It's definitely, it's like bringing, they won't, my experience with a lot of those guys are they want to bring history back to real life as much near as original as possible, and to them that is pure enjoyment.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
yeah,
you get your typical gamer, all they care about is just puts enough, call it a uniform, it's painted, and go from there. You know, it's like they don't care about the fine detail; they just want to play.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's your level of immersion that you want to get into.
Yeah, it's how much you want to commit to that, because, you know, for me, sometimes I'm just trying to capture the flavor of the period as opposed to, I mean, even like when you get into game rules, it's like, you know, some people, you know, rip on bolt action or black powder or whatever. But does, you know, because it's not historically accurate in the sense that they want it to be,
right.
Which is fair enough. But, you know, when I see my game set up on the table, to me, it's a good representation, maybe idealized representation, you know, but
right.
It just depends what makes you tick, you know?
Yeah.
The all-seeing eye.
Well, so Tim, you're in, but it's saying that you don't have a camera. But I think.
Oh yeah, I was wondering.
Yeah, I don't know, but maybe his microphone isn't working too, because the camera's not there. We got some comments here. What is for Musty Lunch, Swords and Sake? And oh wow, AD&D Battle System. That is a name I have not heard in a long time. Yeah, I mean, if you were around when that actually was around as well, then you've been at this for a while.
Yeah,
it's an old
when
one.
it first came out, it was a lot. We played it, and when we first started playing it way back in the day when it first came out, we were just cutting out paper and then writing what the units were and moving paper around.
The first box set was paper. The first edition was paper. I have the second edition, which is a nice book. I don't like the cover so much. It's got one of the worst covers I've ever seen, but the inside of the book is really nice.
That you've ever seen.
It's horrible. It's a horrible drawing in my mind, but the inside of the book, everything inside of the book is amazing. Even the artwork is from the D&D books, but the cover was kind of done for this book, I think. Yeah, it's not great. So Curtis says, I was recently surprised to find the AD&D second edition versions of Battle System, the Big Battle and the Skirmish versions. I thought I sold these off. Nice find. I have them both too. I actually still have the original that I got off a comic book store stand in the late 80s. And it's one of the few things with some miniatures at the time that I saved over the years, when in between the last decade and when I had a big kind of gaming absence in my life, and a lot of my stuff that I left with my parents when I'd moved out, I don't have anymore. But that I still have. It's a nice looking book inside, for sure. And I have the Skirmish, which I picked up in recent years, but I've never played. Lots of nice pics of Ralph Partha models. Yes, I totally agree. And Mel says, I thought I read where Battle System was going to make a comeback. It's possible. I am not sure. Some people have coined that term over the years, and I'm not sure if they mean the same thing. Hey, Tim.
He's back.
You're looking much
back.
clearer.
Hey, there you are. You're very clear.
I'm back over on my big computer.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, what we've done, I went because we went over comments after you left, and then after you hadn't come back, I went and then we did comments again. But he lives, says Percy. So like I was just, I don't really want to hash everything that I said, Tim, but for me, I just said that I like, it really depends on the game and my mood and like the subject, and I enjoy doing a certain amount of research. And it's actually fun, but it's not like to be absolutely precise about everything. Like sometimes it can just actually just be fun to, whether it be fictional and immersing yourself in and doing something that you feel like you're more closer to the source material, or whether it be history. But you had a lot of interesting things to say. You were in the middle of talking about pivotal points within history that can actually affect decision making in a game, which I thought was a good point.
What I do, and I'm sure Rusty does the same thing over time, that with historical stuff, I mean, like I said, doing an actual historical refight is okay for your starting point. I mean, and then you need to, I would rather slit my wrists than play the same encounter over and over and over again, knowing that mathematically, if especially to verge into our next topic, if it does happen to be an asymmetrical type of situation, then you're going to wind up with basically that same scenario running over and over and over again. But what I like to do, and once I play that out a few times and get a real sense of how it's working within whatever rule system, you take the vagaries of the dice out of it. You because that you can have certain games, everything you do, you're just golden, and then you can have games where everything goes awry and nothing works out, and those are your outliers, So I like doing that in the beginning, and then and then taking the historical research and saying, okay, you guys are doing ACW, and when Burnside was put in charge, which he didn't want to be in charge anyway, he knew he wasn't qualified, and he tried to get out of it. The very first, his whole campaign was based on sound philosophy, and they was it Hooker that fought Lee before? Was that Chancellorsville that Hooker got beat at? So, well, anyway, they had proved that they proved up the concept that you could fool Lee. You could get him. And Burnside did. But the problem, what happened to Burnside was his bridges didn't arrive on time. He was told they were ready. He started the campaign.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
They were built. The pontoon bridges were built. They didn't have any horses to get them down there.
That's right. I forgot.
So that's why his whole offensive strategy was, his timing was all thrown off, which gave Lee time to refortify above Fredericksburg, and it just turned into a disaster. Then with that, he built in his own personality, his own hesitancy of he was not like a Ulysses S. Grant, that when he came with both guns ablazing. He did not hesitate to throw troop after troop in large numbers to overwhelm. He did not hesitate, where Burnside did. But if what happens in that campaign then? What happens if he does get that bridging equipment on time. Lee's forces are separated, they're dispersed. He gets his flank turn. What happens then? What is that next avenue within that campaign? That's the way I like to go about it, as I build out from that very strong base of the actual historical events. And I don't care. The Ospreys books are really good for when you read through them, and there'll be little snippets about, okay, this was a major blunder where, well, okay, well, great. That's where our game can revolve around.
Yeah.
What if, you know? Yeah. I mean, well, you even take like the D-Day landings. Okay. They didn't go off without a hitch. And what if they didn't fool Hitler and the high command? What if they weren't fooled? What if he did respond within the first 24 hours the appropriate way? What would have been the outcome then? There's just so many ways to build this out from that base game. What did we get to last time, that you go so far out that it becomes almost fanciful? You could actually take it. What is that phrase? Where you take something so far out that it doesn't make any sense anymore. But you could do that. But I try to stop way before then. But you see okay, if what happens there, and then what if this, and what if, and then if you have some real grounded facts to work from, i.e. the research, to keep you grounded and don't go off into things that would have never occurred. The research is just paramount. I mean, because it opens up all those other options for you. If all you know is the basic story of something, and you play that out, and then you got to build up whole new armies to play this other new scenario and this other scenario. If you're doing strict historical refights, I mean, I don't see where you would be in the hobby very long if that was your go-to all the time. I just think it would be too stifling. Not much creativity in that. But yeah, I do research. I don't care whether it's fantasy or not. I do like the lore. I used to love reading the lore of 40K. I didn't ever enjoy the rule set very much, but the lore was always interesting to me.
Yeah, it's good.
And you can see where. Yeah, well, even with BattleTech.
Yeah, the BattleTech lore is huge.
Yes, it's huge, and you can find actual, a plethora of campaign options and historical, quasi-historical. What would be a good term for that, Rusty? It's not our history. It's a fantasy type history.
Alternative history.
Well, alternative history seems like it's ours but gone wrong. But it's their history. It's their time. It's their history. But it's all based off of fantasy.
I meant I meant in like regular historical terms. You could call it history. But I see what you're saying.
What we venture into when you do the what if.
Well, I think what if was a good thing because that's what they use in the comic books. The what if sort of thing is actually for fantasy, not unused. It's actually kind of used. You know, it's funny. You brought a very different perspective, I think, to it, Tim. Because, like, for me, like, you talked a lot about how you can use it to make your games better, by adding some variety and just changing the way, you're looking at what happened and the way you can play it. And what I was kind of talking about, which I just really tried to paraphrase, was just something totally different, not at all the same, just more how sometimes, like we're playing AD&D battle systems, and my friend got like the map of Greyhawk, and we're looking at, the idea of using like, the Greyhawk campaign system from like, the 80s to be able to look back and play the game in that environment. And it's just not because you have to, but just because it's fun sometimes just to immerse yourself, like to sort of like immerse yourself a couple of steps further than just purely just playing the rule system. And in a historical context too, I think sometimes, even if you're not trying to do everything verbatim, you could say for somebody that's very adept at actually tying the history to their games, this may seem very rudimentary, but for somebody that just typically just does skirmish and generic rule systems, even just looking at the landscapes and like learning a little bit more about where you're playing in the environment is like a step further that can be fun for people to just incorporate that. But it's not, adding depth in the way you're talking about it to the game. Like it's not adding a different kind of mechanical depth, like, of like the event. It's adding just sort of like a level of authenticity that makes people feel interested. You know what I mean? Like at times, like just more interested, I would say. So there's like, I guess, lots of different reasons, I think, to do the research.
Well, that's the beauty of the hobby. That's the beauty of the hobby. You can do as little research or as much as you want, and you're going to get the game that you design. You're going to, whatever you put into it, that's the kind of game you're going to get. And I'm not saying one's better than the other. I'm going to play a lot of games with these miniatures from the Warlord. We're going to probably do some stuff in Spain and Portugal. Now, are these the troops? The uniforms and everything are the same? No. Well, one, they don't have them in this scale, but that should not limit someone for their opportunities to gain. But if you want to go that extra route, and you think, no, I want everything on that table to look historically accurate. Kudos. I commend everyone that does that, and to everyone that has that the dedication that can pull that off. Like I said before, I could war game with blocks of wood if the challenge is there, if the what ifs are constructed well, if the options are constructed well. I like my miniatures, don't get me wrong. I have cabinets full of them. But if push come to shove where I lost everything, I could pick up if I had a can of paint and a couple of blocks of wood, I could make something up. It wouldn't bother.
Gummy bears.
Because I would
red versus green.
Well, in my mind, you remember did you ever read much of Military History magazine?
Yeah.
Way back in the 90s, and 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I was young and single, and I would go to the laundromat, I would always stop by the bookstore and pick up that issue. And they had one on the Civil War particularly, and they had one that was kind of a general history. Then they had there were books on ancient history and stuff. And if you remember, even like in White Dwarf, when they would show a battle report, and they had the little squares and stuff. All right. I can visualize that on the tabletop. that same sort of concept, that same sort of visual, I can do that on the tabletop, as long as the rules and everything and my research and all that stuff is good. The dice are going to be the dice. The only thing you're missing are the actual painted up miniatures.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I mean, if you think about it, that's where wargaming really started. Was just with little, basically a block of a counter that says, okay, this is where they're at, and this is how far they can move. They would move them across the table, and then, you know, but the miniatures, I mean, that just adds. That's like eye candy. That's like icing on the cake for me. I mean, I love a great looking battlefield with all the miniatures and everything. But like I said, if push comes to shove, I can do this with a block of wood and a can of paint.
Well, and it's one of the things that
yeah.
One of the things that I didn't say earlier that I was thinking was just that for the folks that want to get so in depth that, like, you know, every button, you know, is accurate, or like every battlefield is exactly the way it is and all that, you know, it's more power to people. Like you said, I mean, people play and get out of it what they want to get out of it. What I do find, and I think anytime you make a generalization, you're always wrong. Like, you know, at one point you're always going to be wrong, but they do exist for a reason, those stereotypes and generalizations. And I do think that the people that I've seen that have a tendency to get to that level of accuracy tend to specialize in less, if not one game. And period. Like, and it's only for practical reasons. I mean, generally speaking, if you're going to be that knowledgeable and apply that level of care to every single detail, you're generally probably in one area, you know, most of the time.
Right.
That's a particular kind of person right off the bat. Right. Like, and so like, if you're in one area and you're doing it that way, you tend to kind of roll a certain way. Whereas if you're kind of like to do a lot of different things and mix it up quite a bit, it's hard to do everything to that level. I mean, it's just for practical reasons. Even if you wanted to, like, that doesn't mean you want to. But even if you wanted to, it's really difficult. And so,
yeah, that's true.
I mean, even people that like
and
really spend.
I like what you brought up about the terrain and stuff like that too. Even the terrain can take you into that realm of where you're actually looking at scale on the tabletop, to where you get where it's as close as you can get to almost like being there. I mean, it's like, I saw a guy one time, he was building, I forget what it was, but it was a guy I delivered to. He had this huge train set, but it was a specific place in the country.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, every hillside had to look like that hillside. And it was amazing. I stood there and I looked at it and I thought, oh my God, I wish I could have a wargaming table that looked like this. You know, you really couldn't put like blocks of miniatures on it, but just for the sheer visual of it was amazing. The amount of detail, amazing. And so the uniforms and the troops and everything are one level of detail. It's like we all have like hills and woods and stuff that we put on the tabletop. And they're very generic. And that's one way we don't allow the hobby to drive us crazy, is because somewhere we got to give ourselves a little bit of a break and go, if I'm going to paint all my miniatures up to this standard, maybe I can have some, you know, kind of generic terrain. I don't have to make it look exactly like this thing. You know, this hill had to be like this much higher, or you know, sometimes you just have to mentally just work it in. But it can be that. It can be just as in depth as the uniforms and the numbers of guys and units. Yeah. And like, again, I commend everyone that can do that sort of detail. I tell you what, that I wish I had taken pictures of it. I don't know why I didn't. I just walked into, and I mean, he had it in like a big barn. It was like a Morton building. You guys got Morton buildings out there?
Yep.
Yeah.
Like the big metal framed Morton buildings? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he had it in a and it was like all concreted up, and he had some mowers and some, lawn equipment on one side. But man, that table was just amazing.
One of my former clients I had before he passed away, he was a captain in the Navy. He was head of the department in the Navy that was wargaming China all the time. So kind of like intelligence and stuff like that.
Right.
But he had in his basement, since he had a really nice house out there in DC, he sent me pictures of it, is that Minas Tirith, the city, the whole basement, one with nothing but the city wall.
Mm.
That was just a section of the city wall, and in
cool
28 miniatures that he painted for the whole thing. He said, I've been doing this for decades. And he sculpted everything out of foam and everything, cut it all out.
But he do it more for diorama, like artist purposes, or was he a wargamer? Like you said, he did the China. You said he did the China thing, but was it that project for wargaming?
Yeah, that was his project, was just to play a battle for the city wall, trying to breach the city gates.
Wow. That's some focus.
Wow.
And this was before, some of them were actually the GW miniatures, but a lot of them were just your orcs and stuff that you'd find. I think they're GW, the old fancy orcs and stuff like that. But,
right.
That's pretty cool.
That is cool.
But the amount of detail is like when you talk about individuals just going in depth into such things and going to town on it.
Oh yeah, much respect to people that can do that. I mean, Dan, your Stalingrad table is awesome. Every bit of terrain that you did was just
well,
yeah, it's at an awfully nice level of like way up there. It's
yeah, like you said though, that
posted any pictures on the Facebook group of your entire table yet?
I think I did, didn't I?
I don't know.
I think I did
about it, but I don't remember.
I can post it again sometime. Yeah, I think after I got it all done, I think I posted some there. Yeah, I think so. But
I'll have to go back and look because I must have missed it.
It's and that's the thing about terrain. On several levels, I enjoy just the crafting of it. I mean, I enjoy that and the diorama building basically. But like you said, it's the immersion though that it can give. Like I actually found Russian signs from World War II and I put them on my building. Just it's in Russian and just the little things that really sell it, right? But it's a balance between making it playable.
How would you do like a Fredericksburg?
I don't know. See,
that's like if you guys are going to do.
That's a whole other thing.
American. Yeah.
And I don't have any 15 millimeter stuff, so that's a little bit of a thing. Which is, I missed the last show where I think we're going to talk about whether you like basically like points match or historical refights.
Yeah, that was the last show.
Yeah, I missed that one. But, yeah, so it's because that's where it really got into my head was because when the Fire and Fury regimental rule book, it's all the rules and the way you build your regiments and the way the scenarios are written and the setups are all historical refights. And so that got me thinking, like, what if I just want to slap down like a generic battle or a little subsection of, and just generic it type thing, but they don't really have a setup for how to do that. And then I got thinking, well, how do you create a table that actually accurately represents everything to scale anyway? And then I got thinking, why am I even trying to do that? And then and I got in a whole deep place with that. But so I haven't gotten to the point of like, because that'll be a lot of work. Each one of those scenarios are a specific battle, and you would set the table up specifically for that. And it's, well, that could take, if you really wanted to do it, well, if you want to do it really well, but even if you wanted to do it so it's a good basic representation, it could still take you weeks of, unless you have this huge collection of 15 mil terrain, hills that are the right shape, or if you're going to use a cloth to lay over, then how do you get the hills to the right amount of steepness? But this one has a rocky face, and then what are you doing after a while?
Yeah. Well, and
Rusty, get on that. He's giving you instructions. Rusty, you got to get on that.
Yeah.
Get that 3D working.
I want to hear it.
Well,
They're going to be whirring around in the background.
One of the things we didn't. Oh, go ahead.
Something that, when you think about it, that's part of the whole research thing, is like, how are you going to attack? If you're going to set up a battlefield, what's the best way to do it?
Yep.
Was it the channel 1808? He does the.
Oh yeah.
He just puts the hills, and then he has the stuff go over top of it.
Yeah.
So he can move things around, so he doesn't necessarily have to create the.
And he's
the
doing
landscape.
generic. They're based on, but he's doing a representation again, which is kind of where I settle in, in a happy place that's realistic to do.
And that's really what all it comes down to, is you just have to make yourself happy about.
Yeah.
I think what we're talking about is a slice of the gaming experience too, because like there's the competitive side and there's an aspect of the gaming where people don't, they're not necessarily looking for that. Like they're looking for more generic things. They're looking for more match play, like they're, and so we see the variety of offerings out there that cover what we're talking about a little bit more versus covering the other kind of, I would say the bigger part of the gaming community is probably not what we're talking about tonight.
Yeah. Subset within a subset within a subset. We're way in there.
Yeah.
And we're happy to, depending on the rule set, it's like we're just happy to create a little scenario and go with it type of thing. And I was just been thinking about the Fire and Fury. You don't necessarily have to, set up the exact battlefield. You could just say, all right, randomly, you're going to take a force that's out of one scenario. I'll take a force that's out of a different scenario, and then you have a media engagement. Yeah. How many times really did that happen? You got the advanced guard smashing into each other in battles before it became a set piece battlefield that you ever that gets written up.
Well, this leads me to a question. A lot of times when I'm doing historical stuff, and if it's a really big battle, and most of us either play on 4x6, 4x8, and if you're really lucky, you get a 6x12. I don't know how big your particular tables are, but something in that realm. And what I like to do sometimes, like I'll focus on one side of the bat, one action, because that's what you were talking about, reminding me, where it's like, well, we're going to do the right flank. We're going to concentrate on what happened here. We're going to everything is going to be about right here, and then you can move to the center, and then move to the right or the left, and do that sort of thing.
It's more manageable, for sure. Yeah,
you got to do a little.
A good example is like the campaigns Grant and Lee, where Grant was constantly moving, trying to turn the flank and find a way around Lee. And Lee was always constantly having force never to dig in to, it's like, oh, he's coming at us. Let's just dig in. And Grant's like, screw that. We're just going around you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Constantly pulling them out. It's like we're, obviously the men that were under Lee were getting tired of digging all the time, but, like expecting, we're just going to block him when he's not. So you always have that constant give and take, where if you're trying to play a battle in a game, it could be just a meaty engagement of a flank.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You're never gonna. You don't have a full-fledged battle. It's small skirmish between smaller elements. It's the advanced guard. It may be just.
I'd like to see you guys do a fight of where Custer and a cavalry commander. Come on, Jeff Stewart.
Yep.
Before the battle of Gettysburg, had that run in.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of those pivotal moments that doesn't get a lot of ink.
Yeah, you're right.
It's
almost
sometimes they'll mention it, but it doesn't get a lot of ink about how important it was. Because if he would have gotten through Custer and that cavalry, he could have played hell.
That would have changed. Yeah. But they skip right ahead to Buford, and then that's where the Gettysburg starts, and they kind of skip that whole thing. You're right.
Well, that was another one is like the Lookout Mountain, Chattanooga, where you had the whole campaign as they're fighting down to that battlefield. So there's skirmish after skirmish after skirmish. It's like a lot of those skirmishes never ever are written up in as a large battle, but there were skirmishes that happened along the entire way.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And too many individuals think that it's like, oh, it's only this battle happened and that there wasn't another battle for a long period of time. No, this constantly probing each other.
And see that, and this is my argument for skirmish games and big battle games. I don't think they should be separated. There's like these two camps. It's like we only play the big ones and we only play the small ones. And it's like that's not big and small. They were together all the time. All the time. How many of those small day in and day out skirmishers where small parties were moving about and just, well, you got to go find where people are, and the only way you're going to find out where they are is you got to go out and look for them.
Yep.
Yeah. No drone you put up in the air. You had to go out and find them.
Yeah, put eyes on
all
the satellite imagery.
I just think that is just. There's so much that you could connect on your big battle with all those small things that could just kind of just make it so in depth and so interesting.
Yeah, you can make whole campaign system out of that. Link
in itself.
Yeah. Okay, what do you think? What do you think of this? To shift gears slightly, but what do you guys think of like those imagination?
We brought that up last time.
Oh, really?
It's a good point, though. Yeah.
Because that's where you basically create your own like reality history. I mean, it's like fantasy, but it's like people do a lot of times they'll do Napoleonics and do imaginations with that. They call it
7 Years' War is another one that's big.
Yeah, that's another one that's common, and I find that super intriguing. And I really kind of stumbled on it when I was doing my AWI because I was getting so frustrated with getting answers, and I'm like, how about this? Because I love the uniforms and the look and all in the time period. How about I make my own? Like how cool is that?
Last week I was talking about those what ifs.
Yeah,
and if you do enough what ifs, that's where you wind up.
That's where you get to. It's based in reality, but it's a different timeline.
And I think, didn't I say like last time that like you can start at that far end,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can work your way you can, what do they call that? Reverse engineer all the way back to the actual historical battle.
Mm-hmm.
And that's such the beauty of our hobby.
Mm-hmm.
It's expansive. It can contract.
Yeah.
It's almost like it can live and breathe all of its own,
Yeah.
but it needs and
It
no
allows for
and
creativity. Yeah.
yeah, you're not wrong. No matter where you start, you're not
Yes.
wrong.
Yes.
And I just
Yeah,
I
that's
don't know.
true. That's a
I
good
think
point.
board games should be the most inclusive hobby that you can have. It should, we just, as soon as somebody walks in the door, yes, get over here.
Yes, agreed.
Here's a thing of dice. We need you right here. You know,
Yes.
and whether you know the rules or not, let's go. You know, it
Yes.
is, but you know, and I love that whole idea of that you take it to the point where it's like we're just creating our own thing now.
Mm-hmm.
But it began, its seed was
Mm-hmm.
that actual event. And
Yeah.
if you follow the logic and you just, there's always that thread that leads you back to the
Mm-hmm.
actual historical encounter. You got to keep that thread alive, and
Yeah.
then you can take it as far as you want, as long as that small little
Yeah, you
thread
just
of
need that
truth.
anchor, that one anchor thing. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be something big, but you got to have it in there. You just got to have that little, you
Yeah.
know. We're not going to bring last cannons.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to bring Lehman Russ to
Right.
Gettysburg, but you know, we can just, you know, you take all the what ifs until the point that if you just reverse roles to the point where
Mm-hmm.
you know you have all the what.
You know,
Well, and
the term the emperor was used once before, at least.
well, and ultimately, the old world is no different. You know, it's based in medieval
Yeah.
Renaissance Europe, and then
Mm,
you added some magic and some mythical creature things, and you know, but it is still rooted in, you know, swords and horses and cannon, and you know, it has that anchor. And even like my Bretonians now, I'm starting to come up with names for the different orders. Each of my units are going to be, you know, so I'm taking it out of even the 5th edition fantasy world they created, and fleshing out my own little like area and time period for
Hmm.
the region that I'm doing, just because it's fun. And it, like you said, can't do it wrong.
Right.
well, the wonderful thing about being a human being, that everything that we create comes from us being a human being, and
Mm-hmm.
everything that human beings have experienced.
Yep.
And so I remember getting into a very deep conversation with someone one time about that very topic, and he came from D&D, where I was coming from a historical perspective,
Mm-hmm.
and we met at Warhammer Fantasy Battles, you know, but yet
That's where your paths crossed. Yep.
I was coming from this. Oh, these guys look like Renaissance pike guys,
Empire.
and these
Yeah,
guys
Pike guys.
like
Yep.
knights on horseback and all that kind of stuff. And I thought, oh, cool. Where he came from, you know, the magic and the heroes and all that kind of
And the
stuff.
creatures and
And
monsters, and yeah.
yeah, the monsters, the dragons and stuff. And but it was so funny that we found the game coming from two completely
Mm-hmm.
different directions.
Yep.
But yet when we got there, you know, everything that I wanted out of it, I could get, and everything he wanted out of it, he could get.
Yeah.
It was great. I tell you what,
It's crazy.
if we hadn't tried to turn it into some sort of competitive event all the time,
Yeah.
it would still be here today.
Yeah.
I mean, competition killed Warhammer Fantasy. It killed it.
Yeah. And I'd say that's true for some of the other games. Like, and I understand why the companies go down that road, for a business standpoint. But it really does. It changes what it is fundamentally.
And it changes the way people
approach it and
view the game. And I find it absolutely hilarious that you can invest so much into something that is based on random dice rolls.
That's what I was just thinking. You're not wrong.
It's just I think about it, but tell me, I play games against guys that they're a little competitive, and I'm sorry, I've competed all my life in all kinds of stuff, and I could feel those competitive juices start to flow, and I can remember going, I had the worst time today playing that game. I love the game, but I had the worst time doing it. And it was because I allowed myself to get into that competitive mindset. And it did.
It's hard not to tamp it down sometimes.
Well,
yes,
and that's a personal trait, right? Everybody's a little different when it comes to that. There are some people that thrive and really only do it for that reason, and they actually have no interest in the narrative and like the story building and like all of that. Like they're there to play, and
literally crunching numbers.
Well, you can argue.
They want to skew every advantage out of the dice roll.
Yeah. And because like you
and the list building and like whatever it is, like depending on the game, it could be the list building.
It's all relevant.
Yeah.
But you can see, like, even in bolt action, I go to the tournaments and there's usually these couple guys that they win, generally. And it's because they have maximized the list building. And yes, we're all rolling dice, and some of them, been really good, and they kind of explain why they did what they did. And it's like, because I'm still approaching it as I'm still like role playing when I play, like these are my guys. Here's the situation. They are looking everything as like, it's just basically a token. This is expendable. This, if in these certain conditions, have a higher percentage of rolling these dice for this reason. And you put your different units to attack certain units for they're maximizing all the benefits that you have, where I'm just like, like I'm a grunt on the ground on Normandy Beach, and I'm just fighting for my life, looking for the tree, or and so when you do those different approaches, you're gonna have different results in a competitive setting.
It's that layering of a game is I find it was that way in A Song of Ice and Fire, where the guys that were really good at that game were good at layering. You had you had certain units from certain factions had to work together with certain what they called their NCUs, which were their kind of like an NPC in a game, a non-playing character. They played, but they weren't on the tabletop themselves. They could not be a casualty per se, but they played on the board. And what you wanted to do was combine their particular skill set with the guys that you had on the table, and then the units you had on the table, you wanted them to work in a cooperative fashion, and then whatever I forget what they called them, but they were like the champions within the units that certain characters could lead it. Like you had a Jon Snow character and stuff like that you could put in the unit, and he gave this advantage or that advantage or stuff. So, and you wanted all that stuff to layer together, to work in harmony together. And the ones that won the most games that way were the ones that were best at doing just what you were saying. They knew how to put these guys on the table with these guys and these guys on the table. My personal opinion, when I play in a fantasy game like that, and there's all these other troops, but yet your what do they call that? The meta tells them that says this. So that's the only
but the meta
thing
changes.
I'm going to work
Meta
and
change.
doing.
Yeah.
The meta changes
Yeah.
though. Like a lot of the people that are playing at the top want to change the meta. Like there's the knowing the basic meta, but then there's the ones that change it for everyone else.
They're
due
the
to
ones that
thinking
driving it.
They think outside of the box and actually find something new to change the meta. I've seen it happen in Old World already, and it's interesting. It's kind of fun to see how people are taking things that we've had since the very beginning in the game, but then discovering a new way to do something. And now all of a sudden, dragons aren't as tough as they used to be because you've got hordes of goblins with poison arrows taking them down, or something like that. And it's just, and then like there's the people that just hate the fact that you've got people playing a lot of the same kind of armies, because with the objective to win. But you don't have to play, obviously, tournaments or that style of game. It's just some people just like to do that.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It seems
Personal
liberty
preference
to me. It just feels like it's narrowing the experience down to just a few things, and it's okay.
Well,
it's like playing historical refight all the time because I'm playing with the same things all the time. I'm going to do the same things basically against every army. I got this group of shooters. I'm going to put them up against this sort of whatever unit that I think they'll do the best at. That's what they're going to do. And I'm going to use my knights to do that. I'm going to have my flying creature and my magic is all going to work in harmony with the troops that I've got. That sort of thing. And you kind of play the same way all the time.
I think sometimes too when they design rule sets to really be focused on competitive tournament type play, that it gets they say they make them tight, but what they do is they take a lot of the fun out of it. Sometimes take 5th edition fantasy or those are not designed to be, you got to do a bunch of rule restrictions to make that be a tournament game. Yeah. But look at all the cool stuff they used to have for spells and magic items and special characters that have been long extinct. And all the fun flavor, random rolls and stuff. Some of that's not anywhere close to present anymore because it doesn't work in a competitive tournament setting.
And it was really designed. It came from D&D basically. It had that was its seed. It came from that narrative play where
well, you can tell in the rule book it's supposed to be, it's almost like they're giving you a sandbox. Make your fun out of this.
Yeah.
Narrative and cooperative.
Yes.
We're playing kind of against each other. But it's
you're both writing the story. It's a gentleman's game, they say,
You want to do something more than just a slugfest.
You're trying to trick the other guy.
I've watched some tournament games on YouTube. People that bring their cameras to these Old World tournaments, and a lot of them are not that different than you guys, though. Like a lot of them are just having fun, and they're actually saying, "Oh, this was epic," and the way that this happened, and it's actually not that much different. I think that there's a reputation that comes from the tournament scenes across genres that we all understand exists, where it's really hardcore and cutthroat, and takes like those things exist for a reason. People have those opinions of that scene for a reason. But not every tournament scene is like that necessarily. And I would even say that the Old World, I've not seen examples of every tournament, and there's been lots of them. But the ones that I have, many of them have been fairly good spirited. But that might be also the content creators for the channels that I've been watching that have been adding to that. I don't know, but it seems to have been. I don't know.
Yeah, I know my bolt action tournaments I went to for years that you ran into everything from real newbies to people more like me that just wanted to get some games in against some different opponents on some cool tables. And then you also had the people coming in that were ready to kick some ass. And they were pleasant about it. I mean, they weren't like the guy that's like, they were trying to pull a fast one, or they were just being real snotty, but you could see they were playing they were playing 4D chess where I was playing checkers, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have to admit, there are times when I like to, it's hard for me to sometimes not try to understand the best aspects of my army. I find that I'll talk to people and I'll see the same thing in them as in myself, and that they'll really enjoy the narrative and like really enjoy a fun game, and really for the same reasons that we're kind of talking about. But we all at times, I think, have a tendency when something is better for you when you're playing a game, sometimes leaning towards taking things that bring you success, like when you understand the rules. Yeah. And I'm not saying that in a narrative style where you're trying to create a scenario and not and it has nothing to do with that. It's not tournament based or a matched game, then that you're going to do that. But I just think that it's part of human nature to some degree when you go into a match of some kind to try to but you're tasked with creating a list for success. And it's part of human nature to lean towards the things that you start to find work better. Yeah. And unless you kind of maybe consciously turn it upside down on its head and say, no, even though elves, for instance, regular high elf archers and high elf spearmen are garbage in Old World right now, but they're kind of the backbone of a high elf army, typically and so maybe you just want to play a game that is just fluffy and just being able to use your models and not worry about that so much, and I think people do that too.
Well, remember back when Rusty will remember this, back in the old days, you had you could only bring 25% of you have 50% in characters, 25% in elites, but you had to bring so many of your core troop types and all that kind of stuff way back in the beginning. And that kept a lot of those shenanigans kind of in check. But then the business model came in. Well, we got all this cool shit we want to sell. And the rules don't allow us to have all the cool shit on the table.
So it's changed.
Since they're a business, they changed the rules to allow you could bring more of your specials and rares than you needed to bring of your core troop types, because that's the stuff that made them the most money. And that with being competitive, it just soured the game up for so many people. And if you didn't buy, and this is where, the competitive players and the list building, you had to buy that meta list, because that was the mathematical thing that gave you the best chance of winning. And so and you want to bring just a normal force of, my Empire halberdiers and some spearmen and some archers and maybe a unit of knights and cannons, that mixed bag that they were so good at. Yeah. Just gets slobber knocked most of the time.
I stopped playing 40K mostly for that reason. I stopped playing 40K. I was new to wargaming again, so it's not as if this was last year, but I 10 years ago, I stopped playing 40K after a game when they released the Imperial Knights. They released the Imperial Knights when they first released them, and I actually was tabled on the first turn. I didn't even have a chance to go. Yeah.
I got 6 nights.
Well, it's probably because you didn't set up properly.
Well, I actually I gathered my stuff up, and I actually started playing Musket Tomahawks.
Yeah.
I actually no Bolt Action. I started playing Bolt Action.
Okay.
That's when I started playing Bolt Action, when for that exact reason. And I've never really played my Eldar since then. Other than playing like modified kill team kind of games, like or whatever. I've not actually played a game of 40K, like a proper game of 40K, since then, to my knowledge.
What edition was that? Do you remember?
The Knights
it
came
was
out in 5th.
It was 7th when I think I remember this happening. Because you sure about that, Rusty? I actually think the Knights came out.
6th and 7th were almost identical.
Yeah. But I started again in 6th. It was actually the very end. I was using an old Eldar Codex because they hadn't updated it in a long time by that point. But I started again in 6th, and it was 7th when I'd stopped. I never played 8th edition. I've never played any of the other editions after 7th. I actually thought that if you actually took out that overpowered stuff, I actually felt there were certain aspects of 7th edition that were kind of cool. Like as a rule set.
They came out with the like the Eldar Wraith Knights.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of stuff showed up in 5th. And then 6th edition was the Imperial Knights.
I think you got it wrong. But we can look at that after the show, because I actually remember I got the Wraith Knight. I was there on the release. I have a video. I have it on my video. I have a release video for the Wraith Knight. It was during after I started, which was, I believe, 6th edition. And so the Wraith Knight. So I think you'd have to go back and look. But I think your order is right. I think the timing on the releases for the editions might be like slightly off, because I didn't play 5th at all. And a lot of this stuff I bought when it was released in 6th. And then I got 7th, which 7th had the really cool books because it was all of them in the same sleeve. It was a really nice kind of release. But no, I mean, in all fairness, with everything that we're saying with fantasy, I like fantasy much more personally. Warhammer Fantasy, whether it be 6th edition or whether it be Old World. But hey, I think we had another topic to do tonight, but I think we had so much good discussion going on that it was worth probably just saving that one for a future.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, we have lots. We have some
good
comments
one.
here.
That might turn out to be just like this one. It'll
Yeah,
just
I would
take
think
up
so.
the whole. I
We
think
have
so. It could.
What do we got? I was just going to say we had a couple comments, not too many, but it was just GM Cody said, "I love those old Ral Partha figures. I started buying them up again a few years ago. Me too, actually. I actually have them like in front of me, but here's like a Cyclops of. I'm going to be using these for AD&D battle systems. I was showing you giants, but these are like I've got 2 of these of holding different weapons. They made 3 variations of this model, but and I don't think I showed this one, but this is like a female.
Cool.
You can still buy this one on the Ral Partha website, but it's an old miniature. But this is like a female hill giant, and I think it's going to work great for 15 mil. Cool. And Curtis says, I still have my old Ral Partha and Grenadier models. Some of the very first models I painted, I'll show them off in a stream. That's perfect.
That's cool. Yeah.
If I can remember. And we've got the comment, Battle of Chancellorsville, 1863.
That's right. Hey, I'm going to write that one down. The last couple of months, I have not been right on much.
Percy says, for some reason, ACW for me just was a hard time escaping refight simulation syndrome, hence my lack of interest wargaming ACW. And Mel says, is the term foobar or snafu or fixed story? Is somebody saying, or alternative parallel history?
Yeah.
Anyways, that's it.
Cool.
We still got a few people watching. We do have a tendency to have people kind of start skipping out as the show. We probably have half of what we had at the start of the show at this point, but the excitement wears off. we gotta start to grade on people. In any case, but this proved to be a good subject.
Yeah.
For a chat, lots of interesting ideas.
We still got a topic for the next show.
That's right. Thanks very much for showing up, Josh. We appreciate it. We hope that your musty lunch went down smoothly.
And
Getting
cool.
lots, getting lots of painting done too. Yeah.
Yeah. And but yeah, so I guess we probably have a show in a couple of weeks. Just wanted to see when that was going to be. So that's going to be on the 24th.
So it'll be the 24th.
Yeah.
24th.
I am actually going to be away on the 24th. That's kind of why I wanted to check, because I knew I was going to be I have a little trip at the end of the month. And so I'm not going to be able to attend that one. So, but that'll be over on Rusty's channel.
Okay.
And so I will miss out on the symmetrical versus if you guys choose to do that one. But that's fine. I will watch it afterwards.
Most historical battles were asymmetrical.
Yep.
So there we go.
Oh yeah.
We'll leave it there. Yeah.
Oh my God. We'll have some lively discussions on that one.
Josh says it's his birthday, the next Musty show. It's my birthday next Musty. Then bring on the drinks.
Oh, absolutely. I'll have a drink with him.
Party hats all around.
It's gonna be
Drinks
32.
all around. Yeah.
32, Josh. 33. No.
32, 33.
28.
Add a 20 to that. Or 25.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, good grief.
Well. 32 in sport only, mate. All right. Okay, well, thanks everybody for joining.
Yeah.
And
good to see everybody.
It's now officially Musty Age. It was good seeing everybody, and we will see folks on the next show.
All right, good night, everybody.
See you guys.
Yep.
See
Good night,
you
See you in a
everybody.
couple weeks.